All right, in this video, we're going over the the Chapter 4 exam review. This video will be two parts. This first part is going to go through numbers 1 through 12, and the second part of this video will go 13 through 25. All right, so let's get started. Number 1, it says identify the vertex and the axis of symmetry of the graph of the function y equals 2 quantity x plus 2 squared minus 4. So what we have to look at here is this is in vertex form, and we know vertex form is y equals a x minus h squared plus k. All right, that's what we have to look at here. So we have our plus 2, we have our minus 4, because we know that our vertex, of course, is simply h comma k. So we need to pull h out of here, and we need to pull k out of here. The easiest thing to pull out is always k, because it's always this number as is. You don't have to do anything to it. Whereas with h, it's always x minus h. So here it's x plus 2, which means it has to be x minus negative 2, because the double negative will give you the positive. So therefore h is negative 2. All right. Now, your axis of symmetry, I abbreviate a little os, is simply x equals h. So in this case, your axis of symmetry is x equals negative 2. That's an equal sign, not greater than. Is x equals negative 2. So we come over here, vertex, negative 2, 4, axis of symmetry, negative 2. Bam. The answer is C. All right, the answer is C. All right, number 2. Use vertex form to write the equation of the parabola. All right, so first of all, let's start with the vertex. All right, well, here's our vertex right here. Let's see, that's negative 2 and then positive 2. So there's our vertex. So we can go ahead and write in some of what we know. We know y equals, we don't know what a is yet, but we know this is going to be x plus 2 squared plus 2. Again, remember, this is y equals a x minus h squared plus k, and this is h comma k. Since h is negative, it's going to be x minus negative 2, which is x plus 2. So let's go down to our answers and mark out any answers that aren't plus and plus. So that one's gone, that one's gone. So now we narrowed it down to these two. So now we have to figure out, is a 3 or is a 1? Well, there's two ways you can do this. The first way is count over 1 to the right, just 1, and then count up till you hit your graph. So we count over 1, then we go up 1, 2, 3 to this point right here. So since we had to go up 3, that's a 3. So the answer is C. Now, the long way to do this, it's not really that long, but the longer way to do this is this. Pick a point that's on your graph like we did here. This is point -1, 5. All right? So pretend we didn't know this 3 yet. And so I'm just going to leave this as A. Another way you can do this is we have the point -1, 5. So we have an x and a y value. So we can plug the x in here and the y in here and get 5 equals a, and then -1 plus 2 squared plus 2. So 5 equals a. -1 plus 2 is 1 squared plus 2. Well, that's just 1. So that's just 1a, so subtract 2, a equals 3. That's another way you can do it. You can either count over just 1, don't go any more than 1. You can count over 1 and then count up until you hit your graph, and then that will tell you what a is supposed to be. Or you can do it this way. For number 3, you're going to have to do it this way that I just showed you. All right, so let's clear this and go on. All right, number 3. Suppose a parabola has an axis of symmetry at x equals 8, a maximum height of 1, and also passes through the point 9, negative 1. Now, here's what you have to think about here. Your maximum or minimum of your parabola always, always, always occurs at your vertex. So basically, what they're giving us here, they're telling us that our axis of symmetry is x equals 8 and the maximum height is 1. They're basically giving us our vertex. They're basically giving us our vertex. Remember, your axis of symmetry and the x-coordinate of your vertex are always the same number. So this axis of symmetry at x equals 8, well, that's simply what h is as well. H is 8. And then maximum height of 1, well, that's the highest it goes. Well, the highest it goes is at the vertex. So 8, comma 1 is our vertex. Now we need to write this in vertex form. Well, we know vertex form is y equals a x minus h quantity squared plus k. So we know that y equals a x minus 8 squared plus 1. Now, this 9, 1 is important. We're going to put the 9 in for x and then negative 1 in for y. So negative 1 equals a 9 minus 8 squared plus 1. So negative 1 equals a 9 minus 8 is 1 squared plus 1. This comes out to just a minus 1, a equals negative 2. All right, so now we know that this a right here is negative 2. So our final equation is y equals negative 2 parentheses x minus 8 squared plus 1. So let's go figure out which one that is. And negative 2 x minus 8 squared. Oh, there we go. It's letter A. So the answer number 3 is A. All right. Number 4. What are the vertex and the axis of symmetry of the equation? All right, so when you're given standard form, this is standard form. The y equals ax squared plus bx plus c. This is standard form. So we want to pull the vertex and the axis of symmetry out of this. Well, the easiest way to do that is your x-coordinate of your vertex, which is h, equals negative b divided by 2a. So you just have to fill this in. Well, b is your number in front of x. The number in front of x is 8 times over 2 times a. A is the number in front of x squared, so a is negative 2. Now we have a negative here and a negative here. They cancel to positives. So this comes out to 8 over 4, which is 2. So we know that the x-coordinate of our vertex is positive 2, so we can get rid of both of those. Now, if you look, remember how I said earlier that your axis of symmetry is always equal to x equals h, okay? That should be a colon, not an equal sign. Your axis of symmetry is always x equals h. Well, we just solved for h, and it was 2. So now we know our axis of symmetry is x equals 2. And if you look at the axis of symmetry over here, it's negative 12. If you look at the axis of symmetry here, it's positive 2. So the answer is B. All right. But to get this negative 12, because say this had been a 2, say this said x equals 2, but this was a positive 12 instead of a negative 12. What you would do when you found the x value of your vertex, you simply plug it back in to your equation. Okay, and when you solve this, you're going to get the negative 12 for the y value of the vertex. Okay, that is how you get the y value for your vertex. So this should come out to y equals negative 12. And don't forget your axis of symmetry, x equals, it always equals the x value of your vertex. Always, always, always. Will always and has always. And will continue to always be that way. All right, let's keep a rolling. What is the graph of the equation? Now, I will tell you this. On here, whoever wrote this question in the test generator failed. Because if you look at these two graphs, they're identical. Yeah, I'm going to fix this on the test, but these two graphs are identical. The main thing to look at here is this negative sign right here. This negative sign tells you this parabola opens downward. So A and B are gone right away. The next thing, because if these graphs were different, the next thing I would look at is the C value, because that tells you the y-intercept. All right, that tells you the y-intercept. But if both y-intercepts of these two graphs are the same, like they are over here, they're both -3, even though the graphs look different, they're still -3. The next thing I would do is I would find h, which is the x value of your vertex, which is -b divided by 2a. So in this case, it would be negative, and then b is 2, over 2 times a, which is -1. The negatives cancel, leaving you with 2 divided by 2, which equals 1. Chances are, when you get that far, you know it opens downward, so it's got to be C or D. You look for your y-intercept to see if the y-intercepts are different. If both the y-intercepts are the same, I would go for the x value of the vertex, or h. I would solve for h. And because once you find that, more than likely that's going to be enough work to determine which one of these two is your answer. Now I think on the answer key it says D is the answer, but of course C and D are the same. So for the review, as long as you got C or D, you're right because they're the same graph. Okay, so that's how I would solve that one. You look at the negative, it opens downward, so it's got to be one of these two. Check the y-intercept. In this case, both y-intercepts are 3, so after that, I would go find the x-coordinate of the vertex, which is h, which is -b over 2a, and then that gives us 1. So then I would figure out which one of these has a vertex at x equals 1. All right, that's how I would do that one. Let's go to number 6. What is the vertex form of this equation? All right, this one's easier than it seems. Again, we know vertex form is y equals ax minus h squared plus k. So we need to find h. Well, if you remember, h equals negative b divided by 2a. So that equals -2 over 2 times -1. Again, these go to positive, so this equals +1. So now we know y equals, let's leave a blank for a second. H is +1, so this is going to be x minus 1 squared. Now we have to find k. K is easy to find because all you have to do is, once you find h, simply run it through your equation up here, and whatever y value you get will be k. So y equals -1 squared plus 2 times 1 minus 8. Notice the negative is outside the parentheses. I didn't say -1 parentheses squared. That is important to know because the squared only affects the x. It doesn't touch the negative. This is like -1 times x squared. -1 times x squared. The squared only affects the x. After you square it, you multiply it by -1. So 1 squared is 1 times the negative is -1. And then, of course, this is +2 minus 8. Well, this here, -1 plus 2 is 1, minus 8 is -7. So y is -7. Now, we have to figure out what a is. Well, this is standard form, is it not? So this is y equals ax squared plus bx plus c. This a, we know, is -1. Well, the cool thing about this a is -1, which means this a is also -1 because they're the same exact a. They're the same number, same variable, same everything. So we can throw a negative out front. So our final equation is y equals negative quantity x minus 1 squared minus 7, which is letter B. All right. Not too bad, right? Not too bad at all. All right, number 7 says you live near a bridge that goes over a river. The underneath side of the bridge is an arch that can be modeled with the function y equals negative 0.000495x squared plus 0.619x, where x and y are in feet. How high above the river is the bridge, meaning to the top of the arch? And this is a two-part question. How long is the section of bridge above the arch? All right, well, for this one, don't let the word problem confuse you, because we still just have a quadratic equation right here. Okay, we have this right here. This is our quadratic equation, which we're going to use to solve this problem. So it wants to know how high above the river is the bridge. Well, here's your bridge, and chances are this is what it looks like. You have the parabola coming under here, and you have all your structural supports in here. Yes, I know they don't look like that. So we want to know, how high is this bridge? Well, the height of the bridge simply occurs at the vertex of the parabola. So that's all we have to do here is find the vertex of this parabola. Granted, the numbers are kind of ugly, but it works just like any other equation when you're trying to find the vertex of a parabola. Okay? So h, which is the vertex, is simply negative b divided by 2a. Okay, so h is simply negative b divided by 2a. All right. So negative b, which is 0.619 over 2 times a, which is negative 0.000495. So this is simply a calculator problem, because you can use a calculator tomorrow on the test, a regular calculator. So we know these negatives will cancel out here. This negative will cancel with this negative, making it a positive. So it's just simply 0.619 divided by 2 times 0.000495, which gives you 625.2525 feet. All right. Now, is this the height of the bridge? No. If we put this on a coordinate grid, this is simply the x value of the vertex. To get the y value of the vertex, which is the height of the bridge, what we're going to have to do is take that 625.25 and throw it into here as x. So again, like I said, you're going to be able to use a regular calculator tomorrow, so it's not going to be that difficult. You just simply take and you go negative 0.000495 times 0.625.25, make sure you square that, plus 0.619 times the 625.2525. And what you get after you plug all of that in, here I'll write down what I just typed into the calculator. You're going to go as negative 0.000495 times 625.2525. Yeah, I rounded it to 4 decimal places. Squared plus 0.619 times 625.2525. And what does this equal? Well, this equals 193.52. So the height of our bridge, this point right here, all right, the height of our bridge is 193.52 feet. So that rules out B and C, C and D immediately, because it says the height above the bridge is almost 1,300 feet, which is not. It's only about 200 feet above the river. All right, so that's how high the bridge is above the river. Now we want to know is, what is the length of the bridge above the arch? Well, if we go back to my terrible little picture of a bridge here, A 0.625 is from the one end of the bridge to the middle of the bridge, which means what we have to do is we have to double this number in order to get the full length of the bridge. So just double 625.25, and you're going to get 1250.51. So the answer here is B. All right. Because remember, your vertex occurs in the middle. Your vertex occurs in the middle. So in order to get the full length of the bridge, we're going to have to take the x-coordinate of our vertex and double it. So when you double the x-coordinate, you get 1250.2151 feet. All right? So that's how you do number 7. Number 8. What is the equation in standard form of a parabola that contains the following points? So for this one, don't forget y equals ax squared plus bx plus c. We're simply going to have to plug each one of these one at a time into this equation to make 3 different equations. So let's plug in the first one. We get negative 16 equals negative 2 squared is 4, so this is 4a minus 2b plus c. Let's do the second one. Negative 4 equals, now 0 squared is 0, times a is still 0, so we don't need to write that. And then 0 times b is 0, so we don't need to write that. So this is just c. And then our third one is going to be negative 28 equals 4 squared is 16a plus 4b plus c. So those should be the 3 equations you get first. Now, since one of our points, the x value was 0, we know what c is. C is negative 4. So what we can do is we can come over to these 2 equations, erase c, and replace it with negative 4. All right. Now, if we add the 4 over to here, we're going to get negative 12 equals 4a minus 2b. And if we do the same thing for this one, we're going to get negative 24 equals 16a plus 4b. Now this is just a 2-variable system of equations that we went over in, I believe it was chapter 3. Okay, this is just a simple 2-variable system. So I'm going to solve this using elimination. If we multiply this top equation by 2, all of these terms, we're going to get, and then I'm going to write what it equals down below here, we're going to get negative 24 equals 8a minus 4b. Okay, negative 24, because that's 2 times negative 12, and then 2 times the 4a is 8a, and then 2 times negative 2b is negative 4b. So now, we don't look at this equation anymore, we have these 2. So we add them. This is negative 48 equals 24a, and then this cancels out. So now we just have a. So solve for a. Divide off the 24. So negative 48 divided by 24 is negative 2. So we know that y equals negative 2x squared. We don't know b yet, so I'm just going to put an x, and then we know that c is negative 4. Do we have enough information now to answer this question? Well, let's check our answers. We know this starts out y equals negative 2x squared. Well, that doesn't start out y equals negative 2x squared. Neither does this one. This one does. This one does not. So that means our answer has to be C. But if you want to just finish solving that out, just to be 100% sure, let's go back up here and pick the easiest equation, which was, before I crossed this out, this said negative 12 equals 4a minus 2b. Just plug in the negative 2 for b. I'm sorry, plug in the negative 2 for a and solve for b. So we're going to have negative 12 equals 4 times negative 2 minus 2b. This is negative 12 equals negative 8 minus 2b. So add the 8 and the 8. So negative 4 equals negative 2b, divide negative 2, divide negative 2, and b equals positive 2, which is exactly what it equals here as well. So our equation comes out to y equals negative 2x squared plus 2x minus 4. All right, so again, for this one, what you have to do is you have to make 3 separate equations. Each one of these 3 points gives you a separate x and y value, which you plug into your standard form equation for the x's and the y's. So the first one gives us negative 16 equals 4a minus 2b plus c. The second one gives us negative 4 equals c. The third one gives us negative 28 equals 16a plus 4b plus c. Since for this one, our x coordinate was 0, we know c is negative 4, so we simply replaced c with negative 4 on these two, and then we added it to the other side to get negative 12 equals 4a minus 2b, and negative 24 equals 16a plus 4b, okay? And then, now we just have a simple 2-variable system, which I solved by elimination by multiplying the top equation by 2, getting negative 24 equals 8a minus 4b. These two cancel out, which was the whole point in using elimination. 16a plus 8 is 24a, negative 24 plus negative 24 is negative 28. Divide both sides by the 24, so a equals negative 2. Then I just went back up and picked the simpler of these two equations, plugged in a, and solved down for b. And that's all there is to it. That's all there is to it. Number 9, what is the expression in factored form? All right, the first thing I would do here is each of these terms is divisible by 2. So let's factor out the 2. If we factor out the 2 from 2x squared, we're left with x squared. Here we're left with plus 8x. And then here we're left with plus 15. It's the very first number 1 thing I would do. Now, let's factor this, because this bad boy right here will be a whole lot easier to factor than this was. So we know we have our 2 outside. Let's set up our 2 sets of parentheses. X squared is positive and has a coefficient of 1, so we know this is going to be x and x. This is positive, so it tells us our signs in our parentheses are the same. This is positive. We know they're both positive. So now, what factors of 15 multiply to 15, but then turn right around and add up to 8? Well, the only factors of 15 are 1 and 15, and 3 and 5. Well, 3 plus 5 equals 8. So this will be a 3, this will be a 5, and looky there, it looks like our answer is letter D. All right, looks like our answer is letter D. 2, parentheses x plus 3, parentheses x plus 5. All right, let's look at number 10. Number 10 is x squared minus 64. We don't have an x term there, so what do we do? Well, come to find out, since we have x squared minus 64, this is what you call basically the difference of squares. Okay, so this is one of the special cases on the special case chart, which you simply factor into. Since this has coefficient of 1, this is going to be x and x. Since we have no middle term, we have a positive. We have 1 plus and 1 minus. And again, since we have no middle term, what we're going to have to do, the number here is going to be the exact same as the number here. And where you get that number from is the square root of 64. The square root of 64 is 8. So this is x plus 8 times x minus 8, which is letter C. Okay, so that's the difference of 2 squares. Okay, you're going to have your 2 parentheses. When you have no middle term, you're going to have x plus a number and x minus a number. And that number is simply the square root of whatever number this is right here, which is 64. Square root of 64 is 8. All right, let's look at number 11. We have x squared plus 11x equals negative 28. We need to get the negative 28 over to the other side, so let's add the 28. So 0 equals x squared plus 11x plus 28. So now we need to figure up the factors of 28 that multiply to 28 and then turn around and add to 11. Well, we have 1 and 28. We have 2 and 14. We have 4 and 7. Well, wait a minute there. 4 plus 7 is 11. There's 11 right there. Since this is plus and this is plus, and when we factor, we know we're going to have x plus and x plus because this plus here means these signs are the same. This one here indicates that both of them are plus. 4 and 7 multiplies to 28 and adds to 11. And of course, this still equals 0. Now, we're still not done. We have to figure out what's the solutions. Well, for the solutions, what we have to do is take each one of these factors individually and set it equal to 0 and solve for x. So if we subtract the 4 from both sides, we get x equals negative 4. And if we subtract the 7 from both sides, we get x equals negative 7. All right? So our answer is negative 4, negative 7. Not that one, not that one, not that one. Hey, there we go. It is letter A. All right? It is letter A. So that's it for that one. Just simply get the negative 28, add it to the other side, so your quadratic equals 0. And then you're simply going to factor the 28 into 4 and 7, which will multiply to 28 and add to the 11. This plus tells you both your signs are the same. This plus tells you they're both positive. All right? That's all there is to that one. Let's look at number 12, and this will conclude this video. What are solutions to the quadratic system of equations? Well, without graphing, there's only one way to do this. Since they both equal y, that means they equal each other. Negative x squared minus 5 equals x squared plus 10x plus 3. And then we just simply get everything over to one side. Since this is a negative x squared, I'm going to add the x squared to this side. And we have to add the 5 over here as well. So 0, because we took everything from here and moved it over to this side. 0 equals, this is 2x squared plus 10x plus 8. Now, I see that all three of these numbers are divisible by 2. So let's go ahead and divide it all by 2, and we get 0 equals x squared plus 5x plus 4. Now, this guy is going to be a whole lot easier to factor than this guy was. So let's factor it. We get x and x. Again, positive and positive, so we know plus and plus. The only factors of 4 are 1 and 4. Well, there we go. That equals 5. All right. Now, remember, set each one of these individually equal to 0 and solve for x. So after you do that, you get x equals negative 1 and x equals negative 4. That one's gone. That one's gone. Oh, well, it's narrowed it down to C and D, so now we have to figure out even further. Well, this is what I would do. I would pick negative 1, because that's the easiest number between negative 1 and negative 4. I'd pick the simplest one of these two. I'm going to go with this one. So y equals negative 1 squared minus 5. Y equals negative 1 squared is 1, so this is negative 1 minus 5, which equals negative 6. So one of our points is negative 1 comma negative 6. Well, D is the only one that has negative 1 paired with the negative 6. So D is the correct answer. If this had been a negative 6 right here instead of a 14, what you would have done, you would have ran the -4 through here, and you would have gotten the -21 then. Okay? So that's it for the first 12. Feel free to watch this as many times as you want or need to. Make sure you come to class ready for the quiz. I'm sorry, ready for the test, because it's not a quiz, it's a test. All right? See you tomorrow.